You know, ladies and gentlemen, Canadians of a certain age who are big fans of the Degrassi series, including the kids at Degrassi Street, Degrassi Junior High, Degrassi High, Next Generation, have a great affection for this actor. Now, Neil Hope, who played Wheels, was probably one of the best natural actors in Canadian tele-episodic history. Wheels' character was an everyman teenager, and what he went through on the show and in real life touched a lot of people. But unfortunately, the way his life ended and the way his family found out of his passing, officially some 4 years after he's passed away, is a Canadian tragedy that a lot of us don't really talk about, and maybe don't really want to talk about, because we loved him so much as a person and as an actor. Again, when he passed, like I said, it was such a shock. Now, Neil Hope grew up in the 1980s before an audience of millions as a star in a pair of gritty Canadian TV shows, again Degrassi Junior High and a sequel to Degrassi High. Now, according to an article in the New York Times by Paul Vitello, which officially announced his passing, the show was cultural touchstones in Canada across the world, and it became a cult favorite show to the States, where the anticipated teenage docudramas like MTV's Real World and soaps like Beverly Hills 90210 was kind of based on the same plot twists as Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High. Now, Mr. Hope had few secrets left after his 5 years in the role of the troubled teenage character Derek Wheels Wheeler. The show's producers admitted all along to the story of Wheels, a boy who stumbles through misfortunes before drifting into alcoholism, including vehicular manslaughter, drew broadly on the life of Mr. Hope, who never had formal acting training. Now, when I saw him in the Kids of Degrassi Street, I noticed he was a very, very good young actor, kind of comparable to you would see on a General Hospital or an ABC soap, deliver these lines with an honesty and truth that is quite common amongst youth Canadian actors. Now, when the big series ended in 1991, he spoke openly about the wages of alcoholism in a kind of public service documentary, revealing that he was the child of alcoholics who had virtually abandoned him and had fed their drinking on these TV earnings. He said he wanted to convey a message to other teenagers whose parents were substance abusers. It's nothing to be ashamed of because it's not your fault. Now, at the time, he was 19. There was no map through the territory Mr. Hope navigated from that moment of heartfelt communication to the final moment of his life, when he had become so isolated that it would take 4 years before his own family learned he had died. Now, according to medical reports, it was probably because he was a type 1 diabetic. He wasn't taking his insulin properly, or wasn't taking care of himself, and unfortunately he passed. He was found dead on November 25th, 2007, in a room in a Hamilton, Ontario boarding house. Now, Hope had returned to acting on Degrassi for one episode where his best friend Snake, the best friend Snake and best friend Joey joined together because Snake had caught cancer, and the original Zit Remedy went bowling, and they kind of talked about their past together and how friends can never end despite the fact they hadn't seen each other in quite some time. Now, in real life, neither the police, who concluded that no foul play had been involved, nor the coroner's officials who removed the body recognized the name or the face of the deceased. Now, at the time, he was 35. Now, his body had changed quite a bit. I guess he had lost a lot of weight, and he had cut his well-known kind of half mullet short. Now, unclaimed, the body was buried the following March in a municipal cemetery. Family members who declined to be interviewed for the New York Times article found about his death only recently. It has been confirmed that Neil passed away, a relative said in a notice posted on the Degrassi fan website on January 12th, 2012. The news emerged in Canadian newspapers only this month. And across Canada, it was complete shock, because we thought, hey, he's probably, living the best life he can. His passing was kind of quite bizarre because he was only like 10 years removed pretty well from the show and a few years removed from his guest appearance. It was hard to describe the emotion this has generated, said Sam Tweedy, a Canadian television critic who wrote about Mr. Hope's death on his blog. He was a good guy who had the worst possible things happen to him, but he made some bad decisions along his life. Being a child of alcoholics is hard. Now, born in Toronto, September 24, 1972, he was an actor. He essentially played one part. Like most of the Degrassi cast members, he was recruited from Toronto schools. He was 10 when he was cast in a guest role in the precursor show, The Kids of Degrassi Street, which won an Emmy, of course. The job was a godsend, he told interviewers. As he's watching television at his fantasy escape, he said an acting in it would make the escape literal. Now, he went through a lot on the show. Derek Wheeler ended up in Degrassi Junior High. He was involved in youth sexuality, where he was being encouraged to sleep with the what he called the junior high diva. He had run away from school. His adopted parents had died. He found his birth father, who eventually wanted nothing to do with him. He ran away several times, became homeless, straightened out his life, but unfortunately, later on the show, he lost strong contact, emotional contact with the other members of the Zip Remedy, and they reunited, but eventually started drinking and unfortunately killed a young child in a vehicular manslaughter case that also severely injured one of his fellow Nazi castmates in real life. Did injure, of course, castmates in real life, but Lucy, I think, almost lost an eye because of it, and became physically, damaged by it. Now, because the show's all its characters portrayed teenagers, they confronted numerous crises over issues like sexual abuse, racism, unwanted pregnancy, and AIDS. But the troubles dealt Wheeler made him the Job of the cast. After again, his adopted parents are killed by a drunk driver. Wheels learns that his biological mother is dead, and his biological father has shunned him. Wheels drinks, he drives. In my final episode of Degrassi High, which is what he called School's Out, which technically was the last episode, he finds himself in jail, charged with killing one person and blinding other in a drunk driving crash. But we find out later Lucy gets her vision back. Now, for the end of the show, Mr. Hope himself had a drinking problem, and though he wanted to attend film school, he all but dropped out of sight, only emerged years later to make a guest appearance in the 10-year anniversary Degrassi reunion special. A new version of the show began in 2001, and of course still in repeats. Now, he had appeared once, and there was a confrontation, I'll say confrontation, but a talk with Lucy, and again the later episode with the Zip Remedy. And talk about the Zip Remedy, everybody wants something, they'll never, that's the first teen band that really hit it in a modern, pop era. And the Zip Remedy to us was just like a real band. And what was interesting about Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High, the characters are so well done. The cast alone must have been like 40 people, but Wheels and Snake and Joey really stood out, because how it worked in Canada back then, you had a group of friends, and usually 3 or 4 were very close. That's a typical Canadian thing. And Linda Schuyler, who has encouraged my career through the years by publishing my columns on Degrassi, my remote control in various publications, which have been recognized worldwide on Wikipedia and IMDb. Schuyler was trying to make everybody seem real into every situation. And whether you were 25 when you were watching Degrassi like I was, or as a young teenager, these characters meant something to you. But I think a lot of people still feel guilty knowing they never helped Wheels and the way the Wheels had died. Now, at the reunion, of course, he told former castmates that he had been working as a forklift operator, a furniture salesman, and a customer service representative for a pizza chain. In the reunion episode, Wheels has recently been released from prison and appears as a drifter looking at the festivities through the window. Now, fans of the show would sometimes spot Mr. Hope in the streets of Toronto and Windsor, and where he alternately resided, said her former fiancée, Christina Boulard. They shouted, "Wheels, is that you?" Miss Boulard said in a television interview. But she told friends never to mention Mr. Hope's character, even in fun. He loved his time in television, he said, but he was not Wheels. He was Neil, she said. They were different people. His contact with his 2 brothers and his sister became intermittent at best at the end, as much as a year could pass without word. In 2005, Mr. Hope was tracked down in Windsor and interviewed for an entertainment news show. He was thinner than people remembered, his long hair shorn to the nub. He said he was working at odd jobs, still hoping to get back in television. He conceded that he probably not been mature enough to find his feet when Degrassi had ended. I'm not saying it. I don't like my life, he added. I'm just saying it would have been beneficial, another season or two. My life would have maybe been a little different than it is now. Now, as the show ended, Degrassi High and Degrassi movie, they could not say the kid is like killing off the character, but with Wheels in jail, and basically his last scene was talking to Snake in prison behind a glass. I mean, that's pretty heavy for Canadian episodic TV. Now, did Wheels in the show deserve his fate? No, of course not. And there was no like internet back then like there is now. In 2022, the internet would question why a person who's gone through much personal trauma would be asked to not say recreate it, but in the same thing. But Joey and Wheels and Snake had gone through so many things. There was various anecdotes. The time they went to a strip bar, the time they were performing on stage with a Zit Remedy, trying to get the song "Everybody Wants Something" recognized. The video shoot for the song with Lucy, the various entanglements. Wheels had dated one of the twins, the famous twins in the show, and found out it was more of a one-night kissing stand than a long-term relationship. But the thing is, I could relate a lot to Wheels because I looked a little bit like Wheels when I was younger, and I didn't have a drinking problem until I started college. But the problem is you can make bad decisions and not be a bad person, and you can recover. But the diabetes that he went through, I think, was a playing factor because he felt, I don't know, maybe felt alone because of it. I'm going through all of this. And with diabetes, of course, there's always a risk that the health situations will take you out early, and that's what happened. But I consider the cast of Degrassi the greatest Canadian actors of all time. And that's saying a lot, but they were just natural actors. Every episode, if you have a chance to watch Degrassi Junior High, Degrassi High, it was much better and much more put together than a lot of people give it credit for, even Next Generation. But every episode that you saw of Degrassi over the years, especially after Wheels died, Neil died, there's like a ghost in the show. Now, when I watched the episode the other night where Wheels comes back, talks to Snake about these cancer and how he needs to fight it, I almost cried like a baby, and that's why I'm doing this podcast. I really miss him as an actor because as a Canadian, we loved the cast of Degrassi like our own family. And he was the first major cast member to die. And let me tell you something, when I found that out, it's like my heart stopped for like a couple of seconds saying, really? Did we let him down? Did we not take care of him? And we didn't. We should have reached out to him if we knew it was the problems he was having. We could have reached out better. But not saying as Canadians we should feel guilty, but we should have done more from him. But like I said, it's a lesson learned. And when I see people in similar situations that are not actors like him, they're just regular people, I always bring this up. I said, listen, look what happened to Wheels. And let's not give up on this person because you need to show love, and we loved him. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our story about Neil Hope, Wheels of Degrassi, and again, big respect and condolences to all the fans and the family. I mean, fans of his and his family and everybody else. It's been a decade, and I still can't believe he's no longer with us because, how he brought in Joey back in the show and Wheels and Snake and put it all together. And every time I hear the Zit Remedy, everybody wants something. We'll never see him again, but we will think of him with fondness because he meant so much to us. But I remember those episodes on Degrassi Junior High, towards Degrassi High, when he left home and trying to track down his birth father, and he just wanted to belong. Boys, that touched a chord, because he was almost raped in the episode. Can you imagine what he went through? I mean, you count what could go bad in a young man's life, a young male teenager's life. It's there. Pretty freaky. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for dropping in. If you like what we're doing here, we're screenshot and remote control podcast. Give us a like, comment, and subscribe. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a Degrassi fan, this is for you. Have a good day. Bye.